being a founder or creating your startup is not for everybody. It requires a lot of resilience and strength. There are moments when you don't have absolutely any money, and then all of a sudden, I don't know, an investor comes here and says, boom, I give you like 1 million. But it is not always the case. Some people, they are working full time, and then in parallel, they have the startup.
Mhm.
And this is something that as well, I would say, it's good to get started, but at some point you need to decide which one is the path that you want, because the result that you will get, it would be according to the time that you spend on it.
For our very first workshop here in the community, we have Marina, who is an AI lead at a startup incubator, and has been doing great work in leveraging the capabilities that she has learned over time as an analyst, as a lecturer in university, and all in the field of business statistics and now AI. And now she enables startups to, go from the ground up. So definitely very excited for her to be here. I don't know if there's anything that you'd like to share about yourself that maybe I missed.
Yes, of course. Thank you, Diogo, for the nice introduction. As you mentioned, my name is Marina, and I've been working in data science and AI for a while. And since 1.5 years, I'm helping startups to create or shape their idea and build a product out of this. And then whenever they are already ready, and then they have the product, the idea is, okay, how can we scale it? Well, these are pretty much the things where I am around, and always, around technical people. So I'm very happy to be here. I'm very excited to share something that I hope it's useful for the community.
Okay, that's good to know. Cool. Like so far from the first few members in the community, the one common topic, kind of like the stuff that brought people together, is that they kind of like want to build stuff. And and one of the options that people have in order to, actually start building is to join an incubator like yours, right? I was wondering if you could, explore a little bit what you see in the applications of the people and the startup ideas that, have success in joining the campus founders, which is where you currently collaborate.
Yes, of course. Well, there are different incubators, right? I would say, well, I assume the community, you have people like everywhere, but in Europe, there are several helps, different options if you want to apply for any of these programs. Particularly the place where I work, they are focused on startups that they are using AI in the solution that they offer. The main advantage, I would say, is the networking. When you start alone, it's kind of okay, you are on your own. Maybe you know a bit the market, maybe you can do some analysis. But when you join an incubator, there is always someone who knows someone that maybe can use your product or help you to validate the idea. And then if you are planning to build your startup and then you have the time and you're dedicating full time to this, I totally encourage you to apply. And what I see in the applications is you can really realize who is in the very beginning, like, okay, I have an idea and I don't really know how to put it, on the ground, and people who already built a product or an MVP. So this is kind of the first thing that we try to see, right? And then to try to point them, okay, towards what is the best program for them.
Okay. So you have different programs.
Yeah, that's
Can you
correct.
elaborate a little bit?
Yes, of course. In Campus Founders, we start with AI Start. That program, in my opinion, is my favorite because there are so many things that you can build, right, when you are starting. And then at that point, you don't really need to have a product already developed. The idea is that you join the accelerator, and then for these 4 weeks, you get at least your first prototype. If you are working a lot and if you're lucky enough, maybe you get kind of the first beta version of your MVP, let's say. Then we have incubator. Then that one, the natural way would be after AI start. Maybe you can join the incubator. And in incubator, you already have a prototype, maybe like some idea or the MVP already done, and then you need the time to actually mature your business. Start going to the market, pricing your product, adding features, for example. And
Mm-hmm.
that program is a bit longer. It takes 5 months approximately. And then AI founders, when you already have your MVP, maybe you have some traction already, maybe you have some pilot clients, and then you need to have fundings, you need to start, selling your product. Same as with accelerator, that is kind of similar to AI founders, but not super deep tech. Maybe you use AI, but up to some extent only. Imagine, let's say, connecting to an API and then you build a product, right? So then that one could be the option for accelerator. And then you have AI scale, and it's okay, you already have your business, you have some traction, you have some clients. Okay, now how can I do to have, instead of 2 clients, handle like 10, 20, or whatever it takes? These are the different stages, right? So then if you're planning to move forward with your startups, I encourage you to check for campus founders or AI nations, for example. This is
Mm-hmm.
another very famous incubator that are in Munich and in Berlin as well.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, just before we started this, you're sharing that only a fraction of the people that apply actually get in. If
Yeah.
I was wondering if you could share a bit more what makes some people get a yes versus the no.
Oh, well, that one is actually a very good question. I will share here, Diogo, in the chat, the website of Campus Founders in case that
Mm-hmm.
someone wants to check it up. The strong yes usually is when you know how to talk to business people, because this is kind of the main common, I wouldn't say mistake, but the problem that I see with the technical people is that for them it's really hard to explain in simple words what they are doing. So here the main communication that you should have is, uh, what is the solution, what is the problem that it is solving, and who this is helping with. So then these are kind of the three main questions that you should actually ask yourself and then try to explain it. And I have seen many times CTOs that develop like a solution that is fantastic, super deep tech, but nobody buys it.
Mm-hmm.
Then it wouldn't actually work. Or maybe it's like very deep tech is very good, is very relevant, but they cannot explain in simple words what this is doing. And they try to go mostly on the technical part. So something that I would also encourage people here in the community is try to learn some business skills or partner with a person that is a business person. So then that part should be already solved.
Okay. Okay. That's interesting. Um, and then like if we go and zoom in like to the ones that are, let's say, in the very beginning, they're developing an idea, they enter the program. um how would you, let's say, suggest that you refine the idea, right? So from at which moment do you say, okay, an idea is good and it's ready to go into an initial MVP, which is a
Well,
minimum viable product?
here comes a spoiler alert. Most people who join and said, I have an idea, in the first week, they change the idea. They say, oh, my idea was not super good. Then
Okay.
they try to change it. So it's very common.
And
Um,
how does it work in the end? Like you accept these people, and then the first week they change their idea.
Yes, well, it happens, and I would say that's why this is the start for, right? So then you can
Mm-hmm.
actually you have this flexibility, especially at the beginning. The first workshop that I deliver is, okay, let's check if your idea is a good idea, you know. And then there are certain ticks that we can go through. We will talk a little bit about some of them in today's workshop. But the main point is to understand that sometimes what happens is like you have a very good idea. Maybe you think about like a buyer persona. And then when you start thinking about this, it's like, oh, these people, they don't have money to pay for this. Yeah, it
Mm-hmm.
solves the problem. My solution is great, but the users, they don't have money. Then it's not feasible, right? So
Okay.
what I try to do usually is trying to understand what is the area of AI that these people are working with,
Mm-hmm.
and then trying to look for a solution that is similar to whatever they built, and see, okay, instead of doing this, you can work for this other project. For
Mm-hmm.
example, I remember once he was super young guy, super young, like 18 years old, something like that. And he applied with the idea that he wanted to create um, a software or a device that reads the sign of the people, and then deaf people could communicate in a room. So as an idea, it's fantastic. It was so great. But then I asked him, do you know anyone who is deaf or maybe has like a, I don't know, contact with deaf community or something like this? No, I had no idea. Then how are you selling this? Like you don't know anyone, you don't have a network. How will you? And then we try to think, okay, so what are the industries that are here in the area?
Mm-hmm.
And he developed a solution to make some signs and then activate some functions in the car. So then he started conversations with Porsche, for example, here with Mercedes. And well, they are still negotiating. So then the idea was actually good. So the main point was I didn't tell him, okay, just throw away everything you built. It was try to do this for a different market, someone that could be interested in what you were doing and has the money to pay for it. That's the most
Mm-hmm.
important part, you know?
Okay. I mean, I guess because you mentioned money a couple of times, right? I guess that kind of like mostly directs often people to work with B2B, right?
Well, yeah, not all the time, but when I mention money, it means like you need to monetize your idea. So that's the point here. It doesn't matter if you enjoy a lot doing gaming if you cannot sell it. You know, so then you need to come up with an idea that is okay. It's brilliant. It's deep tech and having fun. I can sell it. You know, if
Okay.
nobody can buy it, then you know it's time that you are wasting. And the main point is for you to be successful is to have a good solution, something that is innovative and at the same time, you know, that can put some bread on your table, hopefully, you know, and that
Of
that would be
course.
the big fun.
Yeah, and I get that.
um,
Um.
but you know, Diogo, now that you mentioned about the B2B, so you can make a lot of money in B2C, right? So let's think about like some tools, Lovable, right? So then you pay as a normal user, you know, per month. They are making a lot of money, or I don't know any other app that we use, like for the Netflix, you know, whatever app. So you can make a lot
Mm-hmm.
of money, but then you need to actually have many clients to reach the money that you might actually reach if you were doing B2B. And depending your line of business or whatever you want to do, sometimes it's smart to go for a B2B because it's easier to discuss with investors,
Mm-hmm.
you know, to receive fundings. That I would say is the main advantage, you know. But feel free to do whatever you want, right, guys? So then if you have an idea, go for it. Then
Okay.
we shape it together if you want.
I is the I mean, I'm not super sure, but is like in the program, if you cover the component about go to market, because I would imagine that being a B2B or a B2C would actually differ quite a bit in this go to market, which is basically how you enter the market to start and sell your product.
Absolutely. So then, in the different programs, let's say if you're like just at the very beginning, what I try to help you with is let's discover, you know, let's do a market opportunity navigator. Let's just check, you know, like what is needed in the market, what can you use, what are the tools that you can use to build it, and so on.
Mm-hmm.
We will not talk about the pricing, but yes, we can talk, for example, about what is the market size. You know, let's say, okay, so what is the reach that you could have with this product? And then in other programs, then for sure you have, for example, an incubator is full of this. You know, as you say, how to go to market, how to design a very good business model, how to design something that is sustainable over the time. Because also, this is another thing, being a founder or creating your startup is not for everybody. It requires a lot of resilience and strength. And, you know, there are moments when you don't have absolutely any money. And then all of a sudden, I don't know, an investor comes here and said, boom, I give you like 1 million. And then, okay, you can start running the business. But it is not always the case. Some people, they are working full time and then in parallel, they have the startup.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and this is something that as well, I would say, it's good to get started, but at some point you need to decide which one is the path that you want, because the result that you will get, it would be according to the time that you spend on it. It's unfortunate,
Yeah.
but it is what it is.
Yeah. And honestly, I mean, that kind of like rings a bell as someone who has two different companies, and one of them makes money, the other one doesn't, um, for some reasons, including time. Um,
You
yeah,
see, there you go.
yeah, no, absolutely. Um, like you mentioned for the people that are starting out, what you encourage them to do. What is happening here with Yeah, with the ones that are, let's say, already have the first couple of clients, right? How does the go-to-market actually does differently in the program in the B2B versus the B2C?
Well, the B2B is always easier to actually find contacts or people that want to try the product. And why is that? Because usually, not just campus founders, any incubator, any accelerator will have contacts with organizations. We have
Okay.
partners that they said, okay, we are willing to try certain products. And this is because there are big giants that like keeping an eye on the startups and see what is innovative. And even I would say the design actually changed a little bit, because before we could see the big companies like Google, Nvidia, Microsoft, they had their own research team. Now the research team that they have is actually smaller, but they are keeping an eye on the startups, and they are even offering help to the startups, because they see, okay, if this is a good idea, it is actually cheaper for the big company to buy the idea rather than having like people working constantly there looking for a solution for certain issues. So what I would say is there are always organizations that would be interested in checking and seeing and negotiating, and in that sense is much easier. Now when we talk about B2C, the thing is, do you have something that could be used massively? For example, let's imagine people in a school. We have a startup, for example, that created a product that helps parents that they have kids and they want to do homeschooling. Okay, this is B2C, it's not B2B, but it could be like super scalable. She had like big clients. And same if you build something like Duolingo, that one you can use it B2C, and it would be massively used. But then you need to actually target people that really need it, and then yes, you can actually try to make your point when you talk to investors.
Right. One of the features here is that we get to have live call-ins. So I'm seeing here that Javi has joined, and I'm going to accept, and we can have a quick question.
Hey Diego, thanks for inviting me and I appreciate your time.
Hi,
Hey
Ravi.
Maria, nice to see you guys. I keep listening. I'm new to this board and I've started going to the portal what you have provided. I think, you're like 100 feet ahead of inventing in the sense, starting your own and making things available, people who want to learn from your platform, right? So my question is in future, so are you providing like the capstone where it could be connect the dots? Let's say I have an ideation where, vibe coding is a buzzword now. The reality is totally different. Like minus 10x will be there when you do vibe coding because the idea what you're going to build, it's good for HTML. When you make MVP, it's going to take 10 times of your effort. So I want to see the core structure where, if I come up with an idea or if you're starting an idea, so how you want to approach and how we can make it as a larger scale so that, it would be helpful because the technology is changing rapidly. So today it might be as and tomorrow something will come and changes every time, every month on month.
That's fair. It's a bit of echo from your side.
Let me.
Yeah. Let me just cover the questions, and then I'll ask Marina to jump in with a question of mine to her, which is basically, as you know, like you enter the beta, right? So it's very important that you understand that we are building this together. Like there's no other way around it, right? So there's a lot of stuff that I'm putting in, and as time allows, it's more and more stuff. There's a lot of things that I'm considering to do. The first one, and this is something that I'm sharing very proactively every single day, is the stuff that I'm doing. As you know, I have a company education, I have a company for restaurants, and I'm sharing stuff that I'm doing as we're growing this. And this kind of like includes a bit about everything. Includes about the product, the marketing that I'm doing. And the goal is that you can also actually see the stuff, right? So for instance, As you're building a company, take a look at the social media that I'm currently doing. All right. So we have this video, which is then going on YouTube. If it goes well, it's going to have ads. So there you can definitely learn that by example. And then there's like a lot of other stuff that I'm doing. As like a starting idea, I'm honestly considering doing like a challenge on this. I don't really have the format settled, if it's like, every day or per week, so that people have a bit more time, but kind of like going, okay, let's tackle an idea and go until we, start to talk to the public with it. If you notice in the community, there's a section there called projects, which is something that I shared, and currently it has 2 ideas there, and these 2 would be things that I would pay for people to use in the community, right? So it's things like there's 2 things. So the first one is for people learning to program. I would love to have coding exercises software. So instead of me, paying some other software, I would love to pay someone, or for these events is something that if no one develops, I'm definitely going to do it, which is a clone of Slido, which is for live Q&A during the events. So this is something that and these are like examples of ideas. And then like from the idea to to actually getting your first customers, right? So it kind of like really depends on the way that you're doing. And there's like multiple options, but the bottom line is that like, unless you have like a big network, and this is where I would lean my question to Marina, is that like, you got to use social media. It's the only way, right? If you don't have a network, you got to use social media. So you got to, make sure that you either have a network or you're very comfortable or are willing to learn about social media. It's one of these 2 ways.
And you need to show your product. Like if you don't mention this, how people will know that your product exists, and that you are working on it. So if you build, for example, your personal image, let's say on LinkedIn or Pinterest or any other of the social media that are there, then you can use it on your favor, and show everywhere, like I'm the CEO or director or CTO, let's say, of your startup, whatever your startup is, right? And then sharing maybe small demos, let's say in clips, on what you are doing, what you are building. Something that is super important is that I have seen a lot of CTOs trying to build very cool images with AI, which is great, but people want to see people, because AI is there all the time. That when people said, okay, I will buy a product, they want to see who is the face behind it. So if you use your social media to promote it, it's like much better, I would say.
Exactly.
So the follow-up question, right? I mean, I've been traveling with one idea. I came up with MVP. Sort of all kind. But again, what I see, right? I mean, let's say if I go to the social media, hope you guys are able to hear me, right?
Yes.
Right. So let's say let's say I use Google or Facebook social media to democratize or do advertise my product about to get the initial customers, a beta customer, something. So the real challenge for the startup, right? The initial investment for creating the ads, publishing the ads, and creating that, right? The Facebook alone, they charge around $600 for monthly. And that's again, that's a subscription. If I leave it aside, to prepare an ad, ad has to be tentative. To select every day we need to change. Otherwise, the people will get bored. So that's again another like $500 to $1,000. So I hope you're getting right. The marketing side of the scenario is like expensive rather than MVP is the other part of the journey. Once MVP is ready, all the way to getting at least to cross the beta customers, it's like a big hiccup.
Got it.
I would like to mention something, because you mentioned that with the ads, for example, for Facebook, it will be €600. it doesn't really necessarily have to be that much. You can actually set a threshold, on how much you want to spend per day. Of course, you will not get always like the same result. The idea would be to maximize the efforts that you are placing there, and get something in return. So the first thing is, where is your audience? If you tell me like the users of your product, they are around like 18 to 20 years old, I guarantee you they're not on Facebook. They are either on TikTok or on Instagram. So then you need to decide, okay, where are the people that will use my product, and then decide where you place it. If you are working, imagine like with cybersecurity services, okay, so advertising on Instagram or TikTok will not help. You need to actually go to LinkedIn, or trying to look for these kind of solutions. There are also some free opportunities. Let's say that you want to get started with CRM tools. Soho offers, I think, up to 2 or 3 users for free, for a certain period of time. So then you can try, give it a
Hmm.
go, and then see, where you can spend your money. I would say like that's actually the main point, because at the beginning, I assume you don't have much resources, right?
Yeah. I will just add here. It's very important to distinguish organic from paid um, marketing, and even though like there's a reason why paid marketing exists and why companies like Google make a lot of money, it's because it works, right? So that's the bottom line. But being very honest, if you cannot make organic work, it's very difficult to make paid work. Because if you cannot naturally bring people in, it's then you're because the people that are going to find you organically are people that are looking for, right? So people are looking for something that you are selling, and they find you, they don't buy, there's an issue, right? Therefore, if you then amplify this with ads, it's not really going to work, right? So before you ever make something with paid, do something with organic. And just to give an example, right? So you mentioned like 600, whatever. I currently just spending, it's 150 euros per month on YouTube. That's it. And I have my top video, which actually gets ads that I pay for, because it's my best video. It's the one that takes in the most minutes per person. And therefore, I actually tested this, right? So I put the same amount of money in two different videos. One, add X, the other one at 2X the minutes per person, right? Or the second one, which had 2X minutes per person, got more than twice of the views for the same money, right? Because at the same time, the efficiency of your ads also depends on the quality of what you're trying to give. And this is actually pretty important, right? So make sure that you have the organic component, and this can be on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok, right? And all of these are different. But make sure that you have that right, and then you try to get interest there. And like at the beginning, you can there's like so many different tools to make everything as cheap as possible, because fortunately, freemium is a very valid business model for companies. So, I mean, one thing that you can have, right? I have it on Instagram and YouTube videos, right? So you have something, right? You have content. And then the content, I mean, on Instagram, I have a ManyChat integration. On YouTube, I have an integration with my CRM software. All of this is connected via landing pages, which is then connected to my email list. And all of this can be done initially for free. So that part, I mean, what I got mostly is that you know it's money, and therefore you're scared to spend it because obviously it's your money. Don't waste it. But what I want to convey is that at the beginning, you don't need to spend money, right? So when I was starting to produce the online courses, I put 200 euros in equipment, and I didn't spend any money for several months. that's really how it works, and it's scales. Like even now, I don't even spend that much money on marketing, because the most important thing that you should build, and this is again connected to the part about network, is authority. And just to give, because I love giving this example, let me briefly share my screen. If you go on ChatGPT and you ask, what is the best course on no-code AI agents, this is a course that a lot of people find me. There is a high chance that you get me as number one, right? And I'm not paying ChatGPT, it is just trust and authority that you got to build over time. That's really like the way to go. Hopefully this helped.
Yeah, definitely that helps. I mean, that's initially until we reach certain market segment, like let's say initial 100, 500,000 users, it will be, we need to find our own WhatsApp groups, Telegram groups, forwards, and that way we need to find. There you will find an opportunity to fix the product, what product you are launching, and then it will come to the place where actually you need to burn the money. I agree with you.
Yeah. Alrighty. Yes, thank you. Now there's a part where Marina is going to do a workshop, as we now reached over the 30 minutes. It's going to be exciting. I'm also going to remove you from the call specific, but I think you can still stay in the audience. I think this is how it works. And of course, if you have any questions at any point, do the same thing, because just put a question, I'll put you in, and otherwise, I'll just going to give the room to Marina.
Thank you. And thank you, Ravi, for your questions and for your participation. So let me share here my screen. Let me know, Diogo, if it's visible. Can you see this?
Yes, I can.
Perfect. So then I would like to share with you some of the knowledge that I gain, in this time, and trying to identify the assumptions that we get when we are building our idea and creating our product. So first of all, let's get to know each other. Diogo introduced me at the beginning, so I will not take a lot of time here. As I mentioned before, I'm the AI lead at Campus Founders. I have several years working with data and AI. I have more than 12 years of experience in academia as a lecturer, assistant lecturer, and in research. I am a certified principal data scientist. I have my master's in AI, diploma in data analytics, and I also have an MBA. So then this is kind of my charm here, like the blend of understanding the technical and the business world. And something that is super cool. And if you want to be up to date with the trends, everything that is happening in the AI world, feel free to subscribe to AI Amigos Show. This is a podcast that I co-host with very two good friends, also technical people who are working in this field for so long. So having said that, if you want to add me on LinkedIn, being in touch, feel free to contact me, and we can actually continue the conversation. Now, let's go to the important part of the
just
day.
to add, I'm going to leave the link for the podcast and show in the description.
Thank you. So then you can, guys, go click right away, and feel free also to subscribe to join the podcast. Is every Thursday at 7 p.m. Set time, or Irish UK time 6 p.m. And now, yes, let's think about the assumptions, right? So this one is a very important step when you are building your startup, when you are creating your product. So the main point is to understand what do we have to consider as an assumption. Because sometimes what happens is, okay, I have a great idea. I want to create this product. But then when you think about everything that is around it, you don't really know. So the main thing here is, imagine if you said, okay, I want to create an app where people can share the picture of their pet, right? So then the first assumption is understanding that people have pets and then they want to use the product. The second assumption would be assuming that the person will take a photo and then they want to upload it somewhere, you know. So and then so on and so forth. So then these kind of things is something that it is better to know it at the very beginning. So for example, everyone talks about the bias, right? So then and said, okay, how can we do to avoid the bias or to minimize it? And the main point here is who is actually in charge of this. So if you're the one and you come up with the assumptions, you have these assumptions in your mind, but how do you know that they are true? How are you sure that these are your assumptions? So then something that you have to do is validating it. For example, asking to your audience if they would actually use this product, or to check whether this assumption that you have in your mind is actually, let's say, aligning with the reality. The timing is very important as well. So sometimes we have an idea that is very visionary, it's super innovative, but maybe the market is not ready for that. And that is something that you need to consider before building your product, and especially if this will be your main source of income, because as we mentioned earlier, you need to monetize your idea. The same, for example, if you create something or you come up with the idea of something that is not relevant anymore, or people are actually moving, like think about the AI and how the waves are moving. I remember like a year and a half ago, everyone was talking about Copilot. Then 1 year ago, everyone was talking about LLMs, and now everyone is talking about agents. So then, if now I come up with a Copilot, maybe I am actually out of the real scope. So then the timing wouldn't be good, for example. The cost that you have. Imagine that when you are building your product, at the beginning, when you develop, the prototype or your MVP, everything is fine. But if you have more people that are using your product, then probably the cost increase, and I would say almost exponentially. And with this, I'm not kidding. I have seen many startups that they just come up with the idea, they build it, they use, let's say, an open router for the APIs. And then when they have clients, it's like, oh, now I cannot keep doing this. I need actually to connect with an API that has privacy because of the regulations, because of compliance. Then they need to be certified, let's say ISO 27001 and so on and so forth. So you need to actually keep in mind how much it will cost to you. And also careful with the IKEA effect, right? So then the fact that you come up with an idea and you love it because you build it and you spend a lot of time and you see, oh, it's working, it's great. It doesn't mean that we're great for your audience. And this is part of the assumptions as well. Maybe you assume that, okay, as I build it and it's working and it looks nice, then people will love it. And sometimes that's not the case. Why is it called IKEA effect? Because what IKEA does is actually selling you products that they have different parts and you need to assemble them. And then you love it because it's like, oh, look, I actually built my, I don't know, furniture, my table, my bed, or whatever. And actually, you didn't build it, you just assemble it. So, well, and then the other thing is keep testing your assumptions. This will never end. So if you think about a new feature, then you need to actually keep assuming, okay, will people like it? How, who, when, and so on. Now, there are three main categories that you need to consider when you are building your product. Look, I see here I have like a grammatical error because I just checked two, but these three categories. So the questions are, who are the people that want the product? Okay. And do they really want it? Can I build it? Can my team build it? And do we have the resources for this? And then here we would have, if you pay attention to these three categories, is desirability, feasibility, viability. And then in the intersection of all of them, we have the product market fit. So then if we can combine these three categories, then we found our niche and we find something that is viable, or it's very likely that there are people who can use it, especially if someone want it. If someone want this, if someone want the solution, then it's actually your chance. And the main point here as well is to start asking the correct questions. And this is a problem that they have seen with many startups, people who said, okay, I have an idea, I want to move forward, and they start building before asking the correct questions. Here I just brought some stats that I don't want to discourage you, right? But this is important to know it before making any decisions or stepping in the world of the startups. Sometimes it's hard. As I mentioned, sometimes you will have a moment when you don't have any money. You will have moments when you have maybe a lot of investment that you can use. Maybe you have some client, maybe some clients at the beginning go or stay. And then, it requires a lot of strength from your end. Now, when we check at the stats, checking what are the startups that succeed, and when I say succeed, I mean they have sustainable profits. So then they have recurring income, okay, for the product or for the service that they are offering. They were acquired by another company, or that they got an exit strategy. An exit strategy is, for example, let's say an investor, a big company wants to buy your idea, and then you just sell it, and then you have your exit. There is a very famous case of a startup that they built an idea, Microsoft wanted it, and then they sold it, and then that was their exit strategy, right? And then, well, the long-term growth, knowing that your company will keep growing. If we check at the companies, for example, the AI companies in Germany, the only one that really succeeded or reached to a point that we said, okay, this company succeeded, was Aleph Alpha. That they started from very low budget, and then they constantly kept going, and then now is the I would say the main AI company in Germany. Now, when we look at the statistics, we see that,
Would the NA10 also not fit with
for
success?
example, yes,
Okay.
yes. NA10 is another one. And NA10 actually became super famous. Nowadays, if you talk about automation, NA10 is there and in the word of mouth of everybody, basically. But in the first year, we have between 20 to 25% of the startups that fail in the project. They don't have the patience, they don't want it, they cannot actually have these income or strategies. Between the years 2 and 5, we have 30 to 40% of the startups that fail. And then after 10 years, we only have between 10 to 15% of the startups that are still operating. That probably will be the case of N8N. I would say N8N is here for now in year 2 to 5. Of course, they are not in the fail, right? They are in the success at the time. But then we have a few that are really operating and others that really success. So the main point here is why they don't succeed or why they cannot really move forward is because probably they haven't asked the correct questions. Now, here I have a graph for us to think, okay, what do we actually need to consider? What are the main questions? Because yes, thinking about an idea is great, but the main point is who is your customer? So who will actually buy your solution, right? And according to the customer, then you can think about a product. So then this one is kind of, they can go even back and forth, right? If you have a product and you said, okay, this is my product that they built, what is the solution that they have for this customer? And if you can think more or less on who is your persona, then you can identify the need. And then you can think how the person will acquire the product. Will they buy it online? Will they go to my website and buy it right away? Will they buy it in Udemy, in Hotmart, in I don't know, like in any platform, in any third platform, Fiverr, whatever? Um, how will I design my product? How will I build it? How much time do I need? Do I have the resources? Do I need to pay for an extra app? For example, if I need to use N8N for automation, do I need to pay for it? How much do I pay for it? And then consider that the customer will actually pay you. And when the customer pays you, it actually is paying to your startup. And the point here is if the customer pays, your startups receive the money, the startup also receives the comments from the customer. And then the startup will actually keep designing, building, adding features, all the products, they have a life cycle. So when something is becoming obsolete, then your startup team has to pay attention and keep designing, modifying, changing, and according to whatever your customer needs. But the main point is how the customer will acquire the product. It means like where will they buy it? What is the accessibility to your product? How do you make money from your product? For example, it happened many times to me that I talk to people and then tell me, I want to create something open source with blockchain, with decentralized AI, okay, or blockchain. And then I ask, okay, and how are you making money out of this? They don't know. So then this is actually very important to consider how will you make the money and if they have the money to pay for it. And how will you build the product? So then you will know how much cost do you have. And then when everything is working and maybe you have, let's say you're lucky, you have like a pilot client to try that it's working, it's going good, it's looking great. The question would be, how do I scale my business? How can I satisfy instead of one, like 100 clients or 10 clients, or even let's say passing from 1 to 3 clients? If you are doing a lot of things manually, so then probably you will spend a lot of time checking that everything is working well. So then you can never scale it. Let's say with consulting, for example. If you're doing only consulting, then it's really hard to scale it. But if you really build a product, it's much easier for you because you can translate, let's say, or extrapolate one case to another one, or using the same platform for different purposes. Now, when I talk about the assumptions and check, who is the client, how it works, and so on, I'm not kidding that this is actually a very important part. And I show you now a case. There are other cases, right? But this one was very famous in Latin America. And when I say that anyone can make wrong assumptions, I'm talking about the big giants. So in around 2000, Coca-Cola wanted to introduce a new soft drink in Latin America. And they failed horribly with the assumptions. I mentioned at the beginning, I am originally from Argentina. And what happens with the country, with Argentina, is that this country is the one that presents the highest volume of yerba mate consumption per person. If you don't know what yerba mate is, the mate is our typical hot drink. Imagine a kind of a tea or, like a hot beverage, let's say, but we drink it with a straw. Now, the assumption of Coca-Cola was, come on, this country is producing and people are consuming a lot, and then they will love a soda that has a mate flavor in it. Like, for example, the Mate Club soda that we have here in Germany, I would say was something similar to that. The reality was this one was an extreme failure. People, not only they didn't buy this soda, they stopped buying Coca-Cola because of the anger that it created in the people. It actually awake a lot of bad feelings against the company. And what happened, and this is something that they didn't consider in the assumption, is that Argentinian people, they don't drink mate because of the flavor. Actually, if you drink it for the first time, it's bitter. It's not nice. It's not a drink that you say, oh, this one is so tasty. It takes you maybe some years to actually adjust to the taste. Argentinian people drink mate because it's a part of the ritual to meet with your loved ones, to talk to people. Instead of saying, okay, I have some gossip to tell you, let's talk about this, people say, come, let's have mate and let's gossip about this. Or let's meet in the afternoon, let's have some mate. And this is something that Coca-Cola didn't spot. Now, what was the problem here if we look at the big picture, right? So the first thing is the market research of the company has done the wrong assumption. They assume, okay, they have um, a lot of yerba mate in the country. They buy a lot, they produce it, so then they will love it. That's actually the wrong assumption. They didn't consider the social factor. Now, imagine that this drink launched in 2003, and already in 2004, they just took them out of the shelves because the problem was not only they didn't buy it, they also stopped buying Coca-Cola, and the products that were derived from the company. And it is said that the company approximately lost $3 billion with this soda drink. It was one of the biggest failures of Coca-Cola company in Argentina or in Latin America. So be careful with assumptions and try to consider or explore to make sure that you are going towards the right direction, because remember the bias, right? So then if we are the ones who are thinking about this, unless we really validate it, it could be bias in our head, as it happened with the market research in Coca-Cola. Now, something that we need to think of is, how do we really validate it? Well, by asking. So then you need to check with your potential audience if this is working or not. So, for example, here is an example. Let's say that I believe that small shops that are B2C, they spend a lot of money, or a lot of times, to categorize their expenses, doing this manually. So what do? I contact different owners of different shops. Let's say, I don't know, the mini market that is here near my house, a friend that is running like a clothing shop or whatever, flower shop or something like that. Let's say that I try to conduct interviews, and then I will ask questions regarding how they track their expenses, if they spend a lot of time. And then here, remember that you don't need to mention your solution. You need to mention the questions, because you are testing or you are assessing whether your assumptions are correct or not. So then they don't need to test your AI or your technicalities or, the solution that you are offering. You need to check whether they really have a problem that your solution can fit, can
Let me
actually
just
fix.
add something here, like on this, about testing and figuring out the problem. There's a concept that's quite famous, which is called the mom test.
Yes.
So basically, as it goes, like if you go and ask something like to your mother, what do you think about this? Like everything will be fantastic. And that's more or less what happens when you present something to a shop owner. They basically, yeah, good, sounds good. So kind of like the mom test is, in order for you to get a bit unbiased, false positives, you conduct your market research in a specific way in order to reduce that.
Yes. And as well, it's something that I would like to mention about this, Diogo, is if you ask, for example, let's say your brother, your sister, your father that has a shop or owns a shop, and you come up with your idea, they will tell you the idea is fantastic. But the main point here is not for them to assess your idea, it's for you to assess whether they have a problem with this or not. If they show that they are frustrated with this, then you are offering something that is very valuable. If not, well, then there is something that you are assuming wrong here. I don't know, Dio, if you wanted to mention something else. Well, I think no. So then I
No,
can.
I didn't.
So then I continue. The thing is, guys, as a, let's say, as a general rule, what we try to do is, if 60% of the people or your interviewees, they see this as a real problem, then you can move forward to the validation, because you said, okay, I validated my idea, I can go with the solution. Now, if between 40 to 59% agree, okay, the problem exists, is there, but it's not so critical to fix. Then something that you can do is, okay, maybe this is not so critical for mini markets, but this very critical for bakeries. Okay, so then you can actually narrow your audience. Or trying to check, okay, if it is the problem but it's not very critical, out of all these questions, what is the other problem that maybe I can fix? And another thing is, if you have less than 40% of the people mentioning that this is a frustration or a problem for them, then this is weak. And then it is not worth to actually work on a solution, because probably you will not have a lot of people that will buy it. Now, some
Let
could.
me let me just add another thing, because this is like a B2C like shop thing. It's like reminds me a lot about B2. If you are ever in the business of trying to sell to SMEs, especially focus on the small part, like in any case that you're trying to frame a business problem, like you're going to a business to sell in one of three pillars. You're either increasing revenue, decreasing costs, or mitigating risks. That's the bottom line. It's one of these three. If you're not doing one of these three, like you really got to consider one of these three, because that's like, it's the more direct thing. And even among these three, the mitigating risks is a bit more long term. So it's often a bit more difficult for shop owners or small companies to actually visualize this. And then when it comes to like this specific example, like we with Beta, we try to focus on stuff that would decrease time spent in operations for restaurants. So stuff that would indirectly save costs. We have come to realize that they don't really value that, because it's not a direct effect. It's an indirect effect, and therefore it's not so well accepted. Like when it comes to these things, like they gotta see it. I do A, I get B, and if your product is not really materializing this very directly, you're going to have tough, because everyone knows that their time is valuable, but there's a lot of people that don't value their time in the end, and these two things unfortunately go very well together. Sorry, Maria,
Well,
please continue.
no, but this actually, like a very good example, because the main point here is not that the user has the problem. They actually have to be willing to adapt to a new solution, and then they have to be willing to pay for it. So, as you said, if maybe this is something that is not helping directly, then you need to actually reformulate or recheck who will be actually the user. And a very good example of this could be, for example, if you are selling products that the kids will use. So the final user is the kid, but actually the buyer is the parent. So then you need to have like a good strategy there on showing, how we would actually help their kids. It's very extensive, but it's actually very interesting topic. And I would say if you are really into business, this kind of knowledge is something that you can add to your mind, let's say, or to your list. Now, something that we need to think, on how we can actually validate or to taste.
There's something that this slide is actually great, because Jesse asked a question here in the chat. Are there examples coming up of good and base assumptions? And then you just started with some good practices.
Yes.
So hopefully that will answer the question, Jesse.
Yes, and Jesse, if you have questions afterwards, I'm happy to answer. So the thing is, how can we actually really validate or test whether our solution is good or not? Let's say that you already built the product. You said, okay, I want to solve this problem. I created this product. How can you actually test it? Well, so first of all, very basic, having a landing page. This is super important. People need to actually reach your product somehow, and trying to do some ads, some campaign. And then you can actually track who is actually checking this. Maybe you think that your audience is in Germany and they are not in Germany, they are in Spain. Okay, so it could actually happen. And this is something that you can track, and also who are really buyers for your ads. Because remember that you can spend some money, for example, for the marketing campaign ads, but only it is expected between 2 to 5% conversion that someone actually buy the product. So then it will help you to understand where is your audience and what is actually the problem that you are solving for these people. It will help you, to see where they are. Now, another thing is trying to sell the solution before building it in full. And I would say this one is one of the best practices here. And why is that? Because I have seen, for example, a startup that said, okay, I want to build this product because we like it. We consider this is super important. They talk to some SMEs. Not all of them consider this as a very critical, but let's say that it was kind of in the yellow line. They decided to move forward, and then in the end, they couldn't sell the product. It was like, oh, okay, yeah, it's nice, it's interesting, but we don't have budget for this. So something that it could have been very smart from them was trying to have with these interviews some contact that said, okay, I'm willing to try or to pilot the product, for example. Or you can start as a kind of consulting and then build the product on top of that, or check what are the features and then keep building on top of what you started. Because otherwise, you just put a lot of effort, a lot of time, and then you cannot actually sell it. I would say this is very frustrating, and it could actually lead you to say, okay, I don't want to continue with this. Because something that is very common is that when you talk to businesses, and especially small companies, you ask them, do you want to implement AI? Yeah, of course, sure. Okay, what are your pain points? I don't know. So then they don't even know, what are the solutions that they could actually need. And then this is your job to actually, when you are doing your research, to understand what could they actually need. And if you already have a client, trying to see what are the features that they might need. Another thing could be trying to reduce the features of your product and trying to narrow the solution. Because what happens many times is that, okay, you talk with several people and everyone wants something different. So then to whatever you build, you want to add all those features. That is not sustainable. What I would say is try to stick with an idea. If you know that this is critical and it's solving something, try to sell it. And when you have your client and your client tell you, oh, you know what, apart from this, I may need this something else, then you can add it to your idea. Of course, as well, check what are the retentions that you get for your product. So it's very common that you offer a free version of your product, or said, test it for free for 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, whatever, right? As it happened, for example, when you said, okay, I want to move to LinkedIn Premium, and they say, okay, try for 30 days, and then it will be, there will be a bill for this. Well, usually the startups, they do the same. They try to offer the product for free for a couple of days. Now, what you need to check is how many people are willing to pay afterwards. This is your retention. So if you tell me, okay, you offer, let's say, a free sample, or 3 days to 10 people, and you have 3 people who want to continue with the product, so it means that you get 30% retention. This would be a very good number. And I would say anything that is below 30%, then you need to rework on your product.
Let me just add something here, because I've done the free strategy, I've done the paid strategy, and there are two super important things here for people to consider. If there is friction in your product, don't do the free strategy, because as soon as people hit the difficulty, it's very easy for them to quit. If, on the other hand, things are a bit more rough, definitely go for the paid strategy, because, and this is very important, like, people pay attention to what they pay for. And please put this in your minds, right? So this is why, and again, I'm super thankful that people joined this community without looking at it inside, without having other people, but it was with a clear intention to make it paid from the beginning, because I wanted your feedback and I wanted your attention. Therefore, even though I provide a discount, I did make it paid because I wanted people to come in here and do stuff, even if it's not at the beginning, because people are busy. At some point, you are going to come because that was the whole point of a yearly subscription. And like with Peter, we also started with a freemium strategy. And even though we got 100+ restaurants, we also got to understand that a lot of them started using us over time because people pay attention to what they pay for. And at some point, they stopped, looking at it, or they stopped caring. So always have a very good, like, even if you do the free part, make sure that it's very, you make the incentives to go paid very, very good and make it happen very, very quickly.
Absolutely, that's the main point. You don't offer to test your product like for a week. Offer this for 2 days, 3 days, and then that's it. If they want to continue with this, then they have to pay for your product. Then if you have, for example, a version of your product and then you said, okay, I want to improve it, I want to add different features, I want to make it more user friendly, then you can compare the two versions, for example, with the same user and see, what they like better. For example, when we are using ChatGPT, sometimes we have like two different answers and said, help ChatGPT to improve. And then they ask you, to select one of them, right? So for you, this is very, very common. And I would say that most of the companies and most of the startups, they are trying to do this, right? And then, well, of course, the interviews, right? The only problem would be the questions. You need to try to be, the most impartial as possible, because sometimes you ask questions looking for certain answers. You want certain answers, so then you ask the questions going towards that direction. I would say that having an external person, mostly if you're in an accelerator, in an incubator, or something like this is where, having some coach is very helpful, because they can really tell you whether you're asking the correct questions or not. Maybe you can try to ask someone who is working with you, but is not building the product. So then you ensure that you, are not really biased when you ask, because sometimes we ask the questions that, will lead us to the product that we want. And sometimes we need to understand that it doesn't matter what we want. What matters is what people want. So then we can sell it. Now, if we need to think about the MVP, that is the minimum viable product that we can sell, we need to understand that this is not happening overnight. And we have different phases to think of this. So the first one is the ideation stage, right? So where we say, okay, we have this idea, we want to solve this problem, and then we said, okay, this is the creation of the concept. So then you create the concept of your product. What is your solution? Who are you helping? How will they pay for it? And so on. Now, the second stage is trying to check, is it possible to build it? Because yes, I can actually think about, I don't know, imagine like a rocket that goes to the space and take pictures of the space, and then I can analyze it with computer vision and check if there is life outside the planet. Imagine something like that. Yeah, it's great, but it's not feasible. I cannot do this if I don't have help, because this is very expensive. So then this is something that it's very important to consider. And this would be our second phase. Now, let's say that we tick this box and we said, yes, I think it's possible. I have the knowledge. I don't need a lot of money. I can move forward. Then you go directly to the design. Okay, this is actually the very beginning. I need to start with my operation, designing what is my milestones. Let's say, what are my milestones from this point to the next one? So if I go from point A to C, I need to pass by B first. So then you need to actually make this map and check where do you want to be, let's say in 1 month time, 2 month time, etc. Once you have your MVP, your minimum viable product ready, and you said, okay, I can actually show this to a potential client or potential user, then is the moment when you validate your pilots. So then what do? Is you, for example, created a solution for, let's say, let's go to the example of the B2C owners of the shops. So then you can ask 1 or 2 shop owners if they want to be your pilots, if they want to try your product. They would try it, and then they would tell you what worked and what didn't. So then you could see and you can work on the frictions that you might have in your product or the issues. So you optimize it, you get a better output, and then you refine the product. And then in the end, of course, when you already have the answer, the pilot like it, then you can go into full production, you develop your product, and then you can actually move and say, okay, I will sell it to the world. That would be kind of an ideal scenario, right? It doesn't happen always like that. This is something that I also have to tell you. Sometimes you have maybe a pilot, and only with one pilot you get like a lot of problems. So then it could take a lot of time to actually say, okay, I'm ready to go and show it to the entire world, you know. In this phase, in the phase 5, it could actually be that you spend quite a lot of time in this phase trying to make it work and trying not to have some issues, because the main problem as well, if you said, oh, I want to pitch to this company, I want to pitch to Siemens because my product is amazing for them, or to Lidl or to Aldi or whatever. The thing is, very nice if you get a contact, for example, to go there, but are you able to deliver? So then this is kind of the main questions. And for that, you actually need to finalize correctly this phase and then saying, okay, now I'm ready and don't have any friction. And this is what the pilots are for. Now, something very important about the pilots is that you need to have, I would say, the touch at some point to convince these pilots to be your clients. If they really like your product, then I'm sure that they will pay for it. But some of the pilots, they just use it for a while, they take this advantage and then they don't use it anymore. So be careful with that. The idea of the pilot is that this is not a pilot forever, but it is actually a business or a user that is helping you to develop the product. That's why at the beginning they don't pay. But when you build your entire solution and it's actually working, then you need to gain something out of this as well. Now, when we talk about the MVP here, it's important to consider what are your costs, right? So then
we have a question, which I think is pretty relevant.
Yes, go on.
So I'm just going to read it for you. So Jesse asks, why do users leave a pilot if it's bringing value?
Well, because they don't want to pay for it. And this is actually kind of the main point. So when you start building your product and you said, okay, I have this solution, would you like it? Is it relevant? They can say yes. But if they are not willing to pay for it, then it's hard to monetize it. And maybe something that you need to review here is whether your solution was not for a problem that is so critical. And then let me go back here. Maybe you were in this part and you didn't add any feature, you didn't narrow, because this is very common as well, And other times, and I have to be super brutal honest with this, some big companies, if your pilot is a big company, they want to see how you work, and then maybe they can develop the product as well. And that would be an issue. It could happen, yes. But there are, of course, legal agreements that you can do, NDAs and so on. Then this is another stuff. I'm not a lawyer, but I have seen this.
Also, value is qualitative. Like always put a numerical value behind. In ideal world, increasing revenue, decreasing costs. I mean, if it's a B2C, which is often when you can put some emotions around it, but having a figure around something, if you're trying to convince, because it's a pilot, is usually quite helpful.
So, Jesse, I will have an example here for you. So, probably happens if you have LinkedIn, the LinkedIn offers you every now and then like free membership. Let's say that you are looking for a job. So, then it's very likely that you receive this membership that they offer you. Okay, try it for 30 days. You can connect with recruiters. You can do this, you can do that. I have used it. It's fantastic. It's great. When I am about to end my 30 days, I cancel this. So I could be like a pilot. I can use it for them. I can say, yeah, it's great. It's fantastic. I'm not willing to pay for it, because maybe I don't believe that this would be the way to solve my problem, to have another job. For example, it could happen, that you say, okay, yeah, the solution is great. It's fantastic. I like it, but maybe it's not the one that I want to solve my problem. And then maybe it would be important for you to actually track why, this solution is not enough. Maybe you need to add more features. Maybe you're still here. Hopefully that makes sense. So the thing is, when we talk about the MVP, guys, there are a couple of things that we need to keep in mind. The first one is the cost. How much does it cost for us? Because the main point as well is, you need to actually be able to build it. Sometimes you can create something, let's say with the Visual Studio, you just install Docker, go on, and then you can build it. But if you need an API, for example, like a Gemini, a GPT, Cloud, Grok, whatever this is, you need to consider these as part of your cost. Also understand the complexity of your technology. And this is something that I always try to mention. Technical people in general, and I include myself, we are very proud of building something that is like, oh, look, I use the latest of the latest and it's working, and look, it looks fantastic. Good. But sometimes the fact that this is super deep tech, it doesn't mean that people will want it. Okay. So sometimes your solution could be super simple, but people love it. And then you can actually, reduce your complexity. So then it's easy for you to build. If it is easy to build, then it's easy to scale probably. And then you will have more time to dedicate to do other adds on to this, right? So the main point is at the beginning, we can have many ideas, right? And the many ideas that you have would actually get you all over the place. Try to narrow your idea as much as possible and try to feel something that can give value to the users. And when I say value, is something that they need, it solves it, and then you are there to actually solve the problem. For example, ChatGPT. No? So then if we think about this, I remember at the beginning it was free, everyone was using it. Then they just came with the paid version. And if you didn't have the paid version, then sometimes the system collapsed or crashed and you had to wait like several seconds. So they tell you, oh no, ChatGPT thinking, you need to wait and so on. So then people said, no, this is not working. I actually need the answer just now because we're using this for, I don't know, let's say for working purposes or whatever. So then, okay, it makes sense to actually pay for it. And then it just went towards that. The users have to be willing to pay for it. It's kind of, okay, the solution is great, but this is not what they want. That wouldn't work here. So then they have to be willing to pay for your product. And then the solution that you are offering is actually good enough for you to receive some feedback and then try to have improvements on top of this. So then this will be actually very important when you are building your first product. Remember that the first MVP that you have, it will not be your final. It's just the beginning, because users with the time, they will have different needs. Like the society change. This is not static. It's not that you build your product and that's it, right? It could actually work for some time, but then you have to actually offer something else on top of this. That's the main point. And here, this graph is actually funny. I try to actually show you this because many times what happens is I have the idea, I want to build it, and I want to jump from here to here. Well, it will not happen. That's why as well there are these incubators or accelerators that they take a lot of time when you just join, because you need time to build your product, to build your audience, to get your go-to-market strategy and so on. So try to go step by step and try to follow the phases, so then come with an idea, try to talk to potential users, start building according to whatever they are mentioning. It doesn't matter again what you think of, it matters what they really need, and then slowly you will actually move towards your solution. That's actually the main point. And there's several tools that can help you to develop your product. And I I remember a meme that was, like talking about by coding, like, okay, so by coding lovers, oh no, and then this kind of stuff. But something that I tell you is the low code apps or the copilots that you have could actually be super helpful in the development part. Of course, you need to know about the topic. Of course, you need to understand the code, right? And because if you understand it, then there are more chances for you to fix if there is any problem. It happened to me, for example, that I was using one of the copilots, and then it gave me a result that was not real, was not true. Then that was a problem. Then I said, no, you are giving me the wrong answer. And the copilot kept insisting that everything will look fine. And then when I showed what it was wrong, the answer was like, oh, it's good that you check. it looks like, like a person. It's good that you check. And then, it actually modifies something. But then I had to actually put my hands on. Now, what is the point here when we use the low code or no code apps is that we can build faster. If you are building an AI product, something that you don't have is time, because the AI is the world is actually moving so fast. And maybe you are actually building a solution, and in 6 months, a big giant is using this now or is trying to build something similar. So then, if you want to have an audience and then, try to build on top of this, you need to go fast. Speed, speed, speed. This is something that you have to record in your mind. If you have, let's say, a copilot like Cloud Code or Google Anti-Gravity or so, then you have lower build costs. You don't need, to have like a lot of people working on it. You can have easy pilots. Well, the main idea of using this is that you can have accessibility. It's actually kind of cheap at the very beginning, or even free. There are some manual steps that you will not do manual anymore. You can have the human in the loop all the time because you will be checking what is the answer and if you like it or not. And the main conclusion here is like, it's cheap, it's there, why not to use it? So don't stop just because, oh no, like the good part is like we are doing the hard coding as all the school and that's it. Because for your startup, this will not work. It might actually work maybe for academia, for recognition, that yes. But for your startup, you need to actually be fast, speed, and then you need to actually take advantage of whatever is there to help you. Now, there are some tools according to whatever you are working with, right? If we talk about the coding, Google Anti-Gravity is pretty new. I would say, it was launched 3 months ago or so. And it's fantastic. It's like a fantastic tool. Of course, you need to check the results, but it's really good. And for now, it's cheap. I assume that it's cheap because it's taking the data to actually refine, the output, but it's really good. Cloud Code is pretty cheap as well. I think, if you go for the max version, it's like €100 per month. So then if you already have your product developed and so on, it's something that you can afford. But otherwise, if you are like an individual user, you just pay like €20 and it's actually working there for you. And Firebase Studio for Google as well, it's really good too. So then these are kind of the tools that I could recommend for the coding part. If you haven't tried any of these, I totally encourage you to do so. As I said, anti-gravity is fantastic. It's one of the best tools that I have seen so far. And Cloud Code as well. Cloud Code, the good part is you can actually plug it to your Jupyter notebook or your Anaconda or your Visual Studio, and it actually reviews the code for you and check if there is any errors, or you can ask whatever you want it to build for you, and it does it. So then it's also another tool that I would say is really good. And then, well, so for the marketing part, UX, UI, let's say, Lovable is there. I am sure that many of you actually heard about Lovable. If you need to design a website, for example, or an app, you can do this with Lovable. Even I think now is also preparing newsletters. Is something that you can use as well to create some content, and in just some seconds you will have something that is related or aligned to whatever you are working with. So for example, if you say okay, I have a startup idea and I will work with cybersecurity and helping people like this, like that, it actually creates something for you and create the images accordingly. Is fantastic.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Lovable.
Yeah, me too. It's amazing.
I use it every day, and like especially like even for like the website, which is like in WordPress, instead of for the designer that takes care of it, I just did the mock-up with Lovable and I shared it with her, and I thought, do it exactly like this. So I'm not doing requirements, I'm not doing the mock-ups, right? I'm technically doing the mock-ups, but with code in the way that that I think is nice from the start. I think it's also very nice to show features how they're actually looking like and how they would work. Even if you have a development team, one thing that I've noticed that Lovable excels is actually at mimicking
Yes,
websites.
yes. No, it's fantastic. It's fantastic. Lovable is one of the apps that I recommend so much because also it's very cheap. And then, well, WordPress also now has an AI assistant to help you to build your website. And then Adobe XD is actually very good for photo, photo. I wouldn't say like a photoshopping, but very similar to Photoshop. And it's also involving AI there, and it's very affordable too. You pay a license per year and then you can use it as much as you want. So there are tools out there. Try to use them, because here the main point is not being the most technological, not being, in the old school, the very hard coder. The point here is to use it in your favor, build something fast, efficient, nice, and that people are willing to pay for it. How do you convince people to pay for it? Well, so they have to be in love with your website, with your content, with you, So then imagine that maybe your landing page would be the first contact that they have with you. So then it has to be something nice, something that people would actually say, oh, these are professional people, or this is actually very professional or aligned to whatever I'm working with, right? Well, so then up to here, the content that I have for you, feel free to add me on LinkedIn. Let's keep the conversation. And as I mentioned, we have the podcast, AI Amigos Show, every Tuesday, so 7 p.m. German time. And well, if you have any questions now or other questions here, I will be happy to answer.
Let me just just add a small thing. So for the good people that are watching this on YouTube, this is it for you. Now the rest of the session is for the people who are part of the community, which you are more than welcome to join, and you're going to find a link of the description of this video for you to join. And also all the links for Marina's stuff are also there in the description, so you can check and also we'll go and watch her show. So thanks a lot, and I will see you in another video.
Thank you.